Welcome to IPSA Kind of Magic. I'm very pleased to have in the virtual studio, of course, our fearless leader, Hamish McClay of Search and Convey, current chairman, and not a bad dancer, and of course Sharon Whitney and Barty Brewer of Whitefield Legal Services, who are in fact IPSA members. Now, today we're talking about the proposition. Let me read it out so we've got it nice and clear. How do local IPSA members, so of course there are IPSA members all the way across the country, build closer and therefore more effective council bonds? And I'm going to say, Hamish, I'm going to throw you straight under the bus and say, how do we build closer bonds with those councils?
Well, there's two ways of looking at it, actually. One of the most obvious, which we perhaps don't look at as often as we could, is the fact there's a tendency, particularly with IPSA members, to live within close proximity of the council areas in which they're working. And this makes a significant difference because being part of the community or close to those communities, and having worked with those councils over the years, it is that much easier to actually sort of work directly with them. Now, we do get changeovers of staff and the rest of it. However, there is a certain element of resilience in some of the councils, and it's great to see them there still after years. Now, it's not customary these days, or it became unpopular with the advent of the upfront data and all sorts of wondrous sort of conversations, that the best thing to do was to press buttons and get hold of this information. We're rather expecting that type of response from councils, which is totally unfair, actually, because much of their information, much of their data is not available at the press of a button. They have to gather it together because they have different departments that they collect it. So it varies from council to council. But the major challenge is we are within the communities with which we work, or close to those, and have developed rapport. That's actually a good starter.
All right. Well, okay, so this is a good starting point. Sharon, Barty, obviously, you, as you told me offline, one of the reasons why you were able to work well with councils because you developed these relationships over many years, but there have to have been strategies there to make sure that you can work smoothly with them. I know occasionally Barty wants to get out a rolling pin, but you know, but the truth of the matter is, you know, you catch a lot more flies with sugar than you do with a stick, you know?
Yeah. No, I think I've been in business, and I was at the other end before because I worked with land charges at local councils. So we know what the issues are. And I was lucky that we were picking up the search. I was picking up my searches up as when I started my business. And that gave us a great thing about seeing the land charge officer or land charge person who is dealing with the searches. And then over the times, you know, you build that relationship as well, that, oh, we're not unreasonable. Yeah, we need to be firm sometimes that we need the search. You know, I know everybody's got pressures on, but, you know, we have bigger pressures because our clients are, you know, really God for us. We need to make sure that they get these things when we say them. And I don't care what problems are with the councils. But I think once you explain to them why we're pushing, then they're really accommodating. They're brilliant. I mean, you know, we work with great land charges department across London. We've never had to sort of bully them or say, no, I'm going to the chief executive office because I'm not getting this and that and the other. But it was just building that relationship, and it takes a while before you build a relationship, you know, before they're anti-search agents, right? And then when you explain, you know, it's my job. It's something that I've taken on board now. I have to work with my job. You're doing your job. I'm doing my job. And when that understanding comes through, you know, you don't have that many issues then, because you physically built a relationship one-to-one. It wasn't like on the phone, or you're picking up the searches.
Right.
Going in makes a difference. And I think what we do is we don't take advantage. We don't say everything is urgent. They know when we go to them, it really is. You could mark everything as urgent because everybody's property is urgent.
I think some people do, but I suppose you've got to create a landscape where some things are less got to have it done in the next 10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many examples of that. So it's just that when we do say we need it, they do accommodate. But it is because we've been going into some of these councils for 20 years. And we know them as friends. We've been out, to lunch, or, you just speak to them, not about land charges, about their other parts of their lives.
And they're human as well, because they're under so much pressure. It's unbelievable. There's only one girl dealing with land charges now. After COVID, things have changed so much, and you could understand their pressures as well. When they said they can't do it, they can't. But then you come to a reasonable time scale, which is suitable for both of you, which helps. I mean, we'll give you an example. We had a client who called a day before the bank holiday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I said, Patty, I need this search now. I said, are you kidding me? I said, who's going to give you? He said, but we give you 5 days, right? And I said, I picked up the phone and spoke to the land charge officer and said, listen, I have an issue. And my issue is if you don't get this search in time, my client is going to lose a big job. And he said, well, we can do it in 3 days. And I said, but 3 days, Monday is a holiday. He needs a search by Tuesday to work on it, right? I said, can we not have it this afternoon? And she delivered.
Wow.
At 10 o'clock. We had conversation at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I was saying to Sharon, go and call it.
Just how much cake was involved in that?
No cakes involved, and she was, she did. I said, but don't do this too often, right? When we don't pressurize them and unnecessary. But where there's a pressure, they know that they will help us, because again, it's a kind of a relationship we built with them.
Right.
Especially with London local land charges, we have a great relationship. I had a lady in Kensington and Chelsea, and she said, "Oh God, that Bharti is on the phone." But once you start talking and building, they're really quite pleasant. And then they got to know you and said, I bet it's urgent, right? Yeah, okay, I'll get it done. It's something, that you've had to work at it.
So, all right. So, Hamish, it appears that to build the relationship effectively, you've got to be a little bit personal, get to know them as humans. And secondly, appreciate the amount of pressure they're all under, which we're all under, of course. And thirdly, it's to make sure that not everything is marked as blooming urgent.
Well, there is such a difference. And I think as Bharti indicated there, and certainly members of IPSA will reflect this, because some of them have actually been going in since the 90s, visiting certain councils since the 90s. And whilst we have this wonderful aspect of IT and what can be achieved by it, and we keep getting told, oh no, it's
computer says no.
That makes a difference. The fact that we were going in there made it possible to evolve relationships, because it was, if you like, it was almost sort of a social. We covered the miles we covered, and I dread to think. We did actually cover parts of London in sort of early days. So the miles we were covering, however, it was evolving relationships, and even such awkward things. They would respect that we had traffic challenges. And I think over time, because we were treating it as almost, somehow I think it becomes a sociable style of relationship, in that, as Bartley said, you're speaking up, you get to know about their family, they ask you. And so you have that way of being able to sort of, if you like, work with over the situation, and nothing is too dramatic, nothing was sort of too over the top. However, what we've got is a situation today which is very, very different. We have large, and we do call them factory companies for good reason, because these particular companies, it's a business to them. I'm not suggesting we don't operate professionally, we don't operate it as a business, but unfortunately what will happen, the contact that they have with that large company is somebody phoning up. They want a large number of searches completed, which of course messes it for everybody. This is why, of course, lead times are extended, because if somebody wallops them down and says, look, we've got 25 searches, that's a little bit more than somebody saying, hey, look, I've got 4 or 5 searches to actually sort of put in, because they have to actually, they do stack. And whereas in the past, if you like, even those bigger companies would go in, it was part of their relationship, we had to visit the councils. In fact, when we first started, I'm sure Bartlett will confirm this, we could not get the information if we didn't visit the council. We had to drive there. Now, of course, so it's a business relationship the larger companies have. It's not that personal relationship that we've been able to evolve.
So this factory conveyancing that we've spoken about so often, if anything, that would, I would have thought, deteriorate any relationship you have.
Yes.
Okay, so look, I've got a question. Sharon, the advent of AI and data holding, digital technologies, does that improve things as far as that's concerned, or made it worse?
No, I can't see it as having done so yet. Everything is still very much manual at the land charges department when they have to gather their data, unless they've migrated to land registry, which has had its own issues. There's not many London councils that have actually been migrated at the moment. So the ones that have done, we can see what everyone else is talking about adjacent property not being relevant and having to go in yourself and do that job and make sure that the information there is relevant to the property or just include it anyway. So haven't seen much of that yet. Still a manual process. If we talk about Hillingdon or Hounslow, they've got Heathrow Airport in their records. So that's going to be fun for
that sounds like a nightmare.
Barty,
can you see any improvements coming through this that will improve the way in which you interact with people at land registry?
I don't know.
Or at the council, sorry.
As a council, they are trying to get it mostly online. Obviously, they have their financial issues. That's a biggest headache.
We're not having any.
And not having any, and again, it's a manual job that you have to do, and then you have the land registry on their head who wanting all the data, not enough staff. So one hand you appreciate the issues and problems, the other hand, well, we're running a business, right? For us, we need to get those information ASAP or in a timely manner, not taking months and months as we have had at the moment with one of the council.
I think that's crazy. The disparity that there can be between one search and the next, where one we're talking days and weeks, the next one we're talking months.
See, the problem is no council are like working in the same framework. Everybody does their own thing. It's like our systems are the best, so we'll do what we like, and we don't want to know about. If they worked in a uniform method, if everybody had the same software, everybody dealing the same, it would cut out their job. But no, every council has their own little system set up, and none of them want to move. That's the other thing. And now land registries come on top of them, so. It's tough. It's tough. It's a tough, but the improvement will only come when they get all the records sorted out and it's correct and it's for the correct property, not the adjacent. We don't want to know about 10 different properties. We want to know the property that you're dealing with. You see, so making that search has gone incorrectly.
Hamish. Am I watching for pigs flying, or is this likely to happen?
Well, it's quite amusing to a certain extent. You listen to some people speaking and what they're suggesting, that it's something that can happen almost immediately. We had this by an example from the land registry deciding, right, we would introduce this form which demands this amount of information, much of which in actual fact is the councils do hold that information. But as has been well intimated by both Sharon and Barty here, it's held within different, perhaps we ought to explain just very, very briefly, we'll go into greater detail on another occasion. There's two parts to any local authority search. There's the land charges one, which bit by bit, land registry are taken away from the local councils, which is a sad, sad thing, because the land charges office were the coordinator. They coordinated all of the data coming through, both the land charges side of it and the information from each of the departments. Now, so there was a great coordinator there. Now, of course, if the work's being taken away from some of the councils and other councils are preparing for that work to be taken away, they are going to have the same size department. And land registry didn't quite got it right, as Sharon said, and Barty. That information does need to be refined. And of course, we've lost the experts in the council now. Yes. However, because, if you like, Sharon and Barty both know the types of people to speak to, if we get any queries back, I think this is one of the sad aspects. It's all too often now, outside, if you come outside of London, you get to, many of the councils now who are with the land registry, the only opportunity you get to speak to them is if a query comes up.
Yeah.
That needs to be, is unfulfilled, which is actually interfering with those relationships that we've been able to evolve over the years. However, we still can get the best information because our people are the best people to speak to at the council, even when it's actually been switched over.
We had an example of there was a financial charge that was outstanding. The client rang us, can you check if it's been paid? We got to the right department, seen it had been paid, and it was like, well, we need it removed from the charges, like the register, so that it's not going to be showing up. And spoke to the council, they removed it that day and issued an updated search. So would that happen, if you weren't speaking to these people, to get that action? Land registry, how long would it take to remove that? So data, it would still be showing up, but someone needs to physically remove it. So there's a good
And the
example.
other frustration is for the lawyers, the conveyancers, right? You get this report with this entry in there, and they know shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So who do they go to? They would come to us, or they would have to, if they were dealing with corporate or even to dealing it with themselves to the council, have they got time to chase it up? They don't. They are under so much pressure from what we heard in IPSA conference, that we can be their backbones where they want something done, and their work flows nicely as well, so it's taking pressure off them as well. But it's only because we have that connection that we can do it. We have that rapport with a lot of the councils. We talk to the people. We know different people in different departments that we can talk to. So that helps.
So it appears to be, guys, if I can summarize, that it's the human connection that's all important here.
It is. Definitely.
All that remains for me to say is thank you so much, Hamish, for having facilitated this conversation. There'll be more IPSA kind of magic conversations going forward. Thank you so much, Sharon and Barty, for taking time out of your busy days to be part of this. And watch out looking forward. We're going to try and lift the lid on all the different aspects of what goes into the IPSA work that is done out there, and also invite you guys to take more part in this. We'll be interviewing all the different IPSA members that would like to be part of this ongoing, but you may see Sharon and Barty making a reappearance because they are our old favourites. Until next time, I wish you all a wonderful, productive week, and of course, watch out for that mental health. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.